The NBA season starts in less than 24 hours, and I am excited. So much so that today, I'm giving you 6 of my favorite predictions and opinions for the upcoming season, including my take on who wins the NBA title. But first, let's start with the MVP award, where I am predicting that Luka Doncic finally wins his first. Now, unfortunately, the MVP award in basketball specifically runs around the narrative around a certain player. Last year, we saw Jokic win the MVP, partially based on the fact that he was the best player in the world at that time, and had just won his first title the previous year. Because of that, in a close competition, it comes down to what narrative sells. And because Jokic was the best player in the world, he had a proven track record, and he was still doing Jokic things, he won his third MVP in 4 years. This year, the narrative that makes the most sense in my mind for the media to run is that Luka Doncic is the young superstar who many consider to be the best in the world that needs to get over the hump and capture his first MVP award for people to start taking him serious in all-time discussions. Of course, Luka has the numbers to win him an MVP. Last season, Luka put up 33 points, 9 assists, and 9 rebounds a night. Those are just ridiculous numbers that could have very well won him his first MVP last year. This season, with momentum from last year's postseason run, and a full year with Daniel Gafford, PJ Washington, and a year of progression from Derek Lively, the stage should be set for Luka to continue his individual dominance while leading the team to a top 4 seed. He has the narrative, he has the stats, he will have the team success, so I don't see what could stop him. Now, of course, his competition is going to be stiff with Shai, who's likely going to get the first seed out west, and Giannis, who's going to be more motivated than ever to lead his team to a good record. But what Luka has is the playoff success last season, and now the track record of performing at an extremely high level on a nightly basis in the regular season and the postseason. So because of that, I believe Luka Doncic will win his first MVP award this year. Up next, I'd like to talk about the Phoenix Suns and the fact that I believe that they will compete for the first seed out west. Now, obviously, you may think this is a crazy take, and I don't blame you. Last year, they had a really disappointing end to their season, getting swept by the Timberwolves, having Anthony Edwards talk trash to Kevin Durant, and him not really even being able to do anything about it. And then, of course, Bradley Beal just stinking it up all 4 games, and then talking like he's this big man. It was honestly just extremely disappointing to see the Suns just flame out like that when they had a really good chance to defeat the Timberwolves as they did in the regular season. However, I believe this is a new Suns team. Sure, they still have the same big 3. Sure, maybe they're a little injury prone. I could understand your reservations as to why they won't be one of the top teams out west. But when all 3 guys played last year, they had a combined record of 26-15 when all 3 guys played. That's a 51 win pace. And that's considering the fact that they didn't have a point guard, that their size was questionable at times, that their head coach just did not fit that team. And the Phoenix Suns went out in the offseason and they addressed all 3 of those things. They got Tyus Jones, who is pretty solid in Memphis. I think he will fit perfectly as a traditional point guard. He will be able to run that offense and incorporate all 3 guys to make sure they get their shot attempts and make sure that they get the best looks. You look at the size concerns. Yusuf Nurkic being the only center on that team is concerning. He has his injury history as well as a big 3. He is not too reliable. Adding a guy like Mason Plumlee, who, although that's not that big of an acquisition, that's going to be a big deal to have another 7-footer in there who you can trust to have the ball in their hands. And then the head coaching position, Frank Vogel. He's a great head coach, don't get me wrong. He just did not fit the identity of that team. Frank Vogel is a defensive-minded coach that was forced onto an offensive-minded team. You're not going to ask guys like Bradley Beal and Devin Booker to be elite defenders. You're not going to ask Yusuf Nurkic to be a great lockdown center in the post, especially within the last 5 years. He just has not been great as a defender. Frank Vogel's mindset, while right with certain teams, just did not fit this Suns team. And I believe that Matt Ishiba realized that. He fired Vogel, and now Budenholzer's in there. And while I don't think he's one of the best head coaches in the league, he's going to be great for a Phoenix Suns team that pretty much relies on their offense to win games. His schemes are going to be incredible for that team, so much so that I believe that they're really going to be a good regular season team next year. As for the playoffs, I do have my reservations, but for the regular season, if the big 3 stays healthy, they have the depth now to compete with some of the best teams out west in the regular season. And because of that, I believe that they're going to have a huge improvement over their season last year. And even so, their season last year wasn't too bad. They finished 49-33, 8 games out of the first seed. With new, better head coaching, with better depth pieces around them, and with a potentially healthy big 3, I don't see why this team can't compete with the top of the West and potentially grab one of the top 3 seeds. Now heading out east, let's talk about the Miami Heat. And I believe that the Heat were a sleeping giant who have finally awoken. Now, the Miami Heat's way of coasting through the regular season may have worked in the past. In 2020, they were a 5 seed and they made the NBA Finals and honestly put up a pretty decent fight against the Lakers. In 2023, they were the 8 seed and they made it all the way to the finals before losing to the Nuggets. They have made it to 2 of the last 5 NBA Finals because of their method of pretty much much coasting through the regular season and relying on the postseason only. But last season was completely disastrous. A lot of guys missing games, the team just not meshing well on the floor, Jimmy Butler ultimately getting injured right before the playoffs and having to miss the entirety of the playoffs. And as a result, the Miami Heat, though they did grab the 8 seed, they lost to the Boston Celtics in convincing fashion. I think Pat Riley has finally realized that this method of going around in the regular season just isn't viable. And I believe that because the remarks that Pat Riley had about Jimmy Butler in the offseason and about the team in general, I believe it's lit a fire under them. Pat Riley was calling them lazy. Pat Riley was saying that Jimmy Butler needs to stop trolling. Pat Riley was right. And I believe because of that, the Miami Heat are motivated to go into next season and prove everyone wrong. Now, is their roster the best? No, because in my opinion, I think they actually have one of the worst rosters out of all the projected playoff teams out east. But with one of the best head coaches in the league, if not the best, in Eric Spoelstra, and a motivated Jimmy Butler, who's looking to secure a lucrative contract extension, I believe things are going to get interesting in Miami. Now, are they going to compete with the top dogs like the Knicks and the Celtics? I don't think so, but people projecting them as a 7th or 8th seed, I believe that's a little disrespectful. But just getting that guaranteed spot in the playoffs, just meshing well in the regular season and making sure that team chemistry is going up heading into the playoffs is going to be key. And now with a full season of Terry Rozier, a solid backup big in Kel'el Ware that they just drafted, and a really underrated starting 5, I do think the Heat are going to make some noise, and I do think that the Heat are going to be back in the sense that they're actually going to try in the regular season and potentially grab a series in the Eastern Conference playoffs. Now I'd like to talk about the Philadelphia 76ers, and the only thing I have in my notes about the Philadelphia 76ers is just one question. What's going on here? Before the season, I was extremely optimistic for their future, right? You add a superstar like Paul George, and you add really solid depth pieces like Andre Drummond, Caleb Martin, and then the draft Jared McCain. And overall, you look at that roster and you're like, oh yeah, that's definitely going to be a championship contender. But then you listen to some of the quotes that they've been saying during media day and throughout the preseason, and then suddenly you realize, oh yeah, this is the 76ers. Let me focus on this one quote from Joel Embiid. We're talking about individual success and his availability in the playoffs. He said, quote, "There is no agenda. There's no all-star. There's no all-NBA. There's none of it. It's whatever it takes to make sure that I get to that point and I'm ready to go. Basically, every single year in my career, I've been hurt in the playoffs. So that's the goal, and it's all about doing whatever it takes to get there." That's some really good stuff. One question, Joel, why wasn't that your focus last season, or the year before that, or any other season in your career? The championship mindset isn't just something that you come up with. It's not just a quote to the press. It's not just a statement saying, I'm going to be ready in the playoffs. I understand that you're taking better care of your body, that you lost 25 to 30 pounds. I ultimately think that's going to be good, but you clearly don't have the mindset, Joel. Why do you act like you do? He says there's no agenda. There's no all-star, there's no all-NBA. He's had that agenda for the past 10 years of his career. How am I supposed to believe him? It's gotten to a point where I just don't trust the 76ers now. Just thinking about it more, thinking about what this team is, who they are. I trust Maxey, sure. I don't trust Paul George and Joel Embiid. I don't trust those guys to stay healthy when it matters, and I understand that Joel Embiid has taken measures to be healthy. I understand that Daryl Morey is probably going to talk to Nick Nurse, or going to sit the guys at the right time. That's great. That's all perfect. But in the preseason, we've already seen Paul George get injured. We've already seen Joel Embiid start load managing. And you pair all the load managing and the injury concerns with the fact that Embiid, Maxey, and even Daryl Morey is talking about championships when this team hasn't even made it to the conference finals. That talk is just ridiculous. Why are we talking about NBA titles? Your team hasn't made it past the second round in over a decade. None of the things that I've said during this entire conversation should make anyone feel confident in their title odds. This team is injury prone already, and this team is talking about titles when they haven't even made the conference finals. What are we doing here? 76ers fans, please comment down below what you believe the ceiling of this team is. Obviously, you're going to think that it's a championship because, of course, you have a great roster. But just seriously, I am concerned about what you guys are going to be in the future. And while I hope that Joel Embiid is healthy and Paul George is healthy, and I hope they have a successful season, I just don't think it's going to happen. So I guess my prediction is 76ers, be cautious. My next one deals with a really personal topic. My prediction is that Masai Ujiri is fired. Now, I haven't really made it too clear to anyone where my allegiance lies on this channel because my favorite team sucks, and that's all because of one man. Masai Ujiri was the savior of the Raptors organization, taking a team that was near the bottom of the standings almost every year and surrounding guys like DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry with talent, drafting guys like Pascal Siakam, OG Anunoby, and Norman Powell, and eventually trading for Marc Gasol, Serge Ibaka, and Kawhi Leonard. And those those guys would eventually win the Raptors their first NBA title in franchise history. But since that moment, things have taken a huge turn for the worse. Sure, Scottie Barnes has developed into an all-star caliber player, and guys like Grady Dick have shown a lot of potential, but the complete mismanagement of this roster has led to the Raptors paying $360 million guaranteed to Barnes and Emmanuel Quickley, and $20 million a year to Jakob Poeltl. Tag that along with the fact that the Raptors held on to Anunoby and Lowry far too long over the past 2 years, lowering their trade value and getting back subpar returns. And also, trading a first for Thaddeus Young in 2022, and a first for Jakob Poeltl, which ended up being the 8th overall pick this past year. And now you realize that if it weren't for that title, Masai would have been gone a long time ago. It's frustrating to watch your favorite team burn to the ground while it has no clear direction, and I don't blame our head coach Darko, because if I were in his shoes, I wouldn't know what to do with this team either. There's no spacing, questionable big men, minimal defense, and pieces that work best as complementary stars, not guys who are going to run the show. I don't even know how this team is going to get to 30 or even 25 wins, and at the end of the season, for the sake of my sanity, I hope that the Raptors fire Masai Ujiri and a clear rebuilding direction is established by whoever tries to fix this mess. And finally, the last thing that I'd like to talk about is my NBA Finals prediction. I believe that the Oklahoma City Thunder are going to be your 2024-2025 NBA champions. When you look at the landscape of the league, there aren't many true contenders who could win it all. Out east, you of course have the Boston Celtics, who are still the team to beat, considering the majority of their pieces are coming back. But you factor in the Porzingis injury and the age of his backup Al Horford, and things start to get shaky. The Knicks, they're the social media darling team, trading most of their assets for OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, and Cat. But rarely do you see first-year teams win a title, and in this case, I'm not sure if I trust their depth in the postseason, considering Mitchell Robinson is already injured and Precious Achiuwa is their 8th man. Then you look at the Sixers, who I already discussed at length why they won't win the title, and the Bucks, who have serious issues everywhere besides Giannis, and that's about it for potential title contenders in one entire conference. Out west, you of course have the Nuggets, who have depth issues and an Aaron Gordon contract situation to figure out, the Nuggets, who traded away their franchise guy for DiVincenzo, who's going to be a perfect fit, and Randall, who's a huge question mark fit-wise, which combined with the fact that this is their first year together, means that they probably won't win the NBA title. Then you get to the Suns, a team that I like a lot, but a team that's going to run into trouble in the postseason because of the lack of a truly great big man and their over-reliance on the big three, and now you're down to 2 teams who could really win the NBA title, the Mavericks and the Thunder. While I like the Mavericks, and I like that they beat the Thunder last season in the playoffs, OKC has gotten rid of a player who didn't fit their playing style in Josh Giddey, and acquired Alex Caruso, the perfect plug-and-play guy who will give 110% for 25 minutes on that court. And of course, Isaiah Hartenstein, the answer to their lack of big man depth, who can truly pass and defend at a pretty high level. You factor that in with the continued progression of Shai, Chet, and J-Dub, along with pieces like Cason Wallace, Isaiah Joe, Lou Dort, other Jalen Williams, and this team is 9 or 10 deep with great shooters, defenders, and a superstar who proved last season that he can perform in the playoffs at a high level. When you look at the formula as to what makes teams win titles, the Thunder check all of the boxes. Now, of course, I don't want to completely write off teams like the Celtics and the Knicks, specifically the Celtics, because if Porzingis comes back healthy, and he can stay healthy for the remainder of the regular season and the postseason, then the Celtics are probably going to be the team to beat. But I don't know if I can trust on Porzingis, and I don't know if I can trust Al Horford, a guy who's almost a 20-year NBA vet at this point. I don't know if I can trust them in the playoffs, where big men truly shine and truly are one of the biggest reasons why teams win in the NBA Finals. So because of that, I believe that the Oklahoma City Thunder are going to win the NBA Finals, and I believe that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander will win his first Finals MVP this season. Thank you for watching this video. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, opinions about anything in this video, make sure to comment it down below, and make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. We are on the road to 1,000 subscribers, and any and all support would be greatly appreciated. I'm going to continue covering the NBA season, give you my thoughts, give you my opinions on any breaking news or anything that stands out to me in any of the games, so make sure to subscribe now so that you get all of that content in the future. So with that, thank you all for watching, and I hope you enjoy Tuesday.